It's who you are as a person. I feel like that's a little controversial, but it is. Like, it's just, who are you? Like, do you innately have these skills and this drive to push yourself and go these massive levels, these massive jumps? In our performance reviews, we're looking at how are you scaling? You have to be scaling faster than the business to make those leaps. And at some point in time, Flock was growing at 100%. We were growing at 70%. That meant I was reinventing myself 100% every single year or faster. That's insane. A normal person doesn't want to do that. It's giving up vacations. It's giving up your weekend. You have to sign away these different things. And if you don't want it, you are never going to get there.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 10X Recruiting, brought to you by MetaView. Sal, we got a big one today. I've been tracking Laura for years. This is her first podcast anywhere. So we got Laura Barnes, who's the VP of Talent from Flock Safety. What were your takeaways?
She's had an incredible trajectory in the last few years at Flock. And a lot of what she puts that down to is like very innate characteristics, which I think is very innate, I would say, but also like things that are that in a way that anyone can be. Like, hey, working fucking hard and being like super responsive and like all of these great things. I just think it's like a really good reminder, especially on this podcast. And you and I, we can get super caught up in some of the almost like the technical aspects of what great recruiting is. But also there's like a portion of it, which is just like doing the grind and eating the glass and all this stuff. And I think that comes through in like from her really strongly. So that's probably my biggest thing that folks can take away from this. I even think about this sometimes as a founder, to be honest, is like, don't forget, actually, sometimes it's like outlasting other people is the most important thing. And like showing up the next day is the most important thing, actually, not actually making the best decision in a funny way. So that's my biggest, if that's one thing that I would sort of be inspired by, it would be that.
I had two along the same lines as yours, which is if you want to ascend really quickly in your career, you got to do these three things. One, be really good at your job. Two, constantly reinvent yourself to keep up with the pace of the company. And three, be likable. And that last one, like, we don't really hear that a lot from people, but it's the honest to God truth is like people have to want to root for you. They have to like working with you. And if you want those opportunities in your career, like you got to do all three. And you can't have one or two without the other one. So I love that one. The second one for me is you can't teach gut. So I asked Laura, like, how does she assess managers, like incoming managers at Flock? And she still meets with almost every single one of them. And I was expecting like, oh, this is my question. Like, and we did talk a little bit about that. But then she said, you either have it or you don't. And there is this like innate thing of some people are really good at interviewing, others are not. And there's no amount of structured interviewing that is going to solve that person's problem if they're not good at it. And I think it's just a good reminder for everybody that skills, some are teachable and you can get better at, but some come from a divine power. And if you don't have those, we should focus you in another area.
Yeah, totally like resonated with me as well. I think like the honorable mentions I'd have for like other takeaways were there was like a bit of the sense with Flock that they're not trying to win people that don't want to work there. Do you know what I mean? Which is it's less to do with Laura specifically, to be honest, more to do with like the company as a whole, but I think it's something that many companies should be and are starting to think about much more. But it's really cool to hear it from a company that's like had to sort of chew that pill out of necessity, as opposed to, it's not like they've blown up in people and realized, oh shit, we've got loads of people here who don't want to be here, you know, and they're not culture fit, we should get rid of them. They've actually just like, because of the nature of their product, they always had to focus on people who actually wanted to be there. And so it's cool to hear from her on that. And then the other thing is, you know, we had this old chestnut around quality of hire versus time, and which I don't love. I still think the time to fill is like a great way to think about the efficacy of a team. So I understand the points that people make around quality is more important. I just think that the better way to think about it is quality is a given. Of course, the quality matters. Otherwise, this would be the easiest job in the world. Just get anyone to fill any seat. So quality you keep as a constant. And then the job is do it as quickly as you can. That's the way I think about it.
Yeah, she actually said when they focused on quality, actually the time to fill went faster. So this is one of my favorite episodes. I've been trying to get her on the podcast for more than a year. So I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I did. Here's my conversation with Laura. This is 10X Recruiting, a podcast from MetaView. Let's get after it. Laura Barnes, I believe this is your podcast debut. Is that correct?
It is. And honestly, this might be my first and last.
Good. For those that don't know, you lead talent at Flock, which I think is one of the sickest companies on planet Earth. I will get into my fanboyism in a bit. But I first want to talk about you. So you and I met last year at dinner, and I think you're the best recruiting leader I met in 2025. And there's two reasons why. One, you can talk, like you have the gift of gab and you're a dynamic human. Two, you are brutally honest. Like you say the thing that other people are thinking, which is a very rare trait. So 10 minutes into our dinner, I like stopped you, if you remember this. And I was like, what is going on here with you? Like, where did you come from? And we got to this thing about your dad. So can you tell the story quickly about your dad?
I was very lucky to have like such a badass dad. I don't know. Like I loved it. He had a amazing almost 40-year run at UPS, which is not like the sexiest company that ever existed, but he got his start putting boxes on a truck, which is sick. And then culminated his career being like the CIO, which is wild. Like not many people end up having like a career arc that is like that defining that wild inside one company where you realize so much potential. And so when I was like a little girl, I used to always like tell people, I was like, my dad is the chief geek. Like, how freaking sick is that? Like, you don't have a chief geek in your house, but like I do. And I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be that. And so I would joke with my dad all the time that I was like, I'm going to go and be the CEO of FedEx. And I'm going to take UPS down. And like, I'm going to come out on top. I'm going to do like a bigger, better role. And so we always had just like a really lovely, like back and forth competitive nature. And I think that ended up being like really what pushed me in my own career, and probably why I've gone so far is like, I set goals for myself because I was like, how do I one up him? How do I become a director before he did, a VP before he did? How do I get to the C-suite before he did? So I'm competitive. He is too, but it makes a really good like daddy-daughter duo. Like how
my
fun.
God. I told you this, like we sat across it from each other at dinner. And I told you by the time that dinner ended, I was like, I want my daughter to be just like you. And I want our relationship to be just like this. Because the story I tell myself is that it's hard to be an early leader. Like I was an exec in my late 20s. And there's a lot of shit that you're figuring out for the first time that you've never experienced before. I guess my first question is like, how do you handle that? And then the follow along to that is like, does your dad help? Like, do you guys stay in contact about that stuff?
Yeah. He's like one of the first people I call every time I get a promotion. And like, I love it. Like, I don't know. There's nothing more exciting than being like, holy shit, dad, I did it. Like, look at me go. But I mean, at the same time, when I was graduating college, I remember I was getting towards the end and I did not have a job, nor a future, nor an idea of honestly what I was going to do. I ended up calling my parents and literally telling them I was going to make bracelets in the basement. And I just remember my dad being like, like, what is happening? Like, there's no way this girl's coming home to live in the basement. Like, no. And I ended up going to a career fair solely because I just wanted to put on like a cute business outfit and get drinks afterwards, if I'm being like very honest. And I ended up getting a job from it and still getting the drinks.
Nice.
Did both. But that was really like the jumping point for my career. And when I got into like recruiting and fell into it like everybody else, and then just started believing in myself. Like, I think when you think about career growth and trying to go super quick, like even at Flock, joined as just a recruiter. 5 years later, I'm a VP. That's super unheard of for most people. And most people just honestly won't ever realize it in their lifetime, which sucks. And I think part of what gets you there is honestly like who you are. Like you innately have to be born with some of the traits to get to this level. And that is like drive. That is being strategic, creative, ambitious, having a strong work ethic. No one else can do that for you. No company is going to give you those skills. You either have it or you don't. And if you don't have it, you're probably not going to go have that massive career arc because you're not going to have the internal drive to actually go and do the hard work that comes with it. And that's the hard piece. That is where you're having late nights. I literally nap on my floor in between meetings. Like I'll take a quick 5-minute cat nap right back here. It's very cool of me. I'm a weirdo, but like it refreshes me, but I don't have time because I'm going to work the rest of the night. And you got to get up early and you do it again. And even when you're having bad days, you don't get to show it. You have to like hide it away. You have to constantly be optimistic. Anytime you get a bigger title, you basically have signed away your right to cry, be sad, be tired, not come up with a solution to the problem. And so you have to show up every single day optimistic. A lot of people at Flock have always heard this like early story I tell people. But like when I got here, I remember I was just having a terrible time. It was really tough. Like on my first day at Flock, got told, we are so excited we hired someone who is a hardware recruiter. I was not a hardware recruiter. I'd actually never done it. And I just remember sitting there and being like, holy shit, I'm going to be found out in my first 90 days and I'm going to get fired. Like, this cannot happen. And so I worked incredibly hard, like a psychopath, putting in all the hours. I closed my first staff engineer in like my first 30 days of being there, went on to close 22 people in 1 quarter and never was sad. But what I did do is in private, I would cry in the shower with a glass of wine. I wish I was kidding. But that is literally how I got through it. And I talk to everyone at Flock and I tell them that story when they start and they're having a bad time. I'm like, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to cry in the shower, just like I did, or whatever your favorite flavor of like sad depression is. But like when you do that, it's in private. It is never in the workspace. You have got to present as like an optimist and you have got to be likable and you've got to solve problems. And that is where you're going to get to the pinnacle of your career.
Where does that come from in you? Like, there's the saying of like, you gotta chew glass, but like you seem like the kind of person who likes to chew glass and then likes the taste of blood. Where is that thing from?
I've like always been just a really competitive kid. I tell people a lot of times I really want to work for me. I think I'm a lot of fun. We're going to have a great time together. We can laugh. I'm quite strange, but like I have a very high bar. And I do not like when people don't meet it. And I've been like that since a kid. Like if there was a mental math competition, I suck at math, but I won that thing and I had to win. So I've just like innately had that drive. It's probably something that like my dad instilled in me at like a young kid, always having to be first in sports, always having to be first in gymnastics. The only reason I quit that, I got way too tall. Couldn't go around the bars anymore. 5'10" doesn't really fly. Gymnasts, let me say, they are quite smaller than me, but I have to succeed. I don't know. I wake up every single day and like the thing I tell myself is like, I can and will be the best. Like I'm definitely a psychopath to some degree.
So I would love to hear the story about like how you found Flock. Actually, why don't you first start with what is Flock? Why is it important to our country?
Flock is a public safety technology company. We were founded on the mission of wanting to eliminate crime and then create safer communities in America. It's extremely powerful. It's really cool. We build a variety of devices today, license plate readers, video cameras, gunshot detection devices, drones, and a variety of software products. Right now, we are solving about 20% of the crime in America, which is really cool. It's a massive footprint from like where we were even just like 3 years ago.
It's crazy. Okay. So how did you find it? And then like, what's the story of like how you got in there?
Luck, truly. I was working at a different company called Park Mobile at the time, mobile parking app, not very sexy, but let me tell you, I made that thing sexy to people. But it was 2020 and it was obviously, no one was leaving their house. We were on lockdown. So we were watching our revenue literally dip to like $0. And as a recruiter, when there is no money to be had, it is kind of like writing on the wall. Like I am a cost engine to some degree. And so I started realizing like I needed to find an out. And so Ann Collins, who I love, who lives in Atlanta, she had made a post that she had just gotten to Flock. And I was like, I love that lady. Like I want to work for her really bad. Let me just shoot her a message. And so I did. We got to chatting. I interviewed. The rest is history. I took the job. To be totally honest, I did not realize what I signed up for. I thought I was going to a company where I would fill like 70 roles a year. And it was just going to be like a really easy ride, super peaceful, like an adorable Atlanta startup, right? Like we're usually not known for creating like powerhouse companies that are going to go and change the world. I was quickly mistaken. We posted like 100 roles. My first quarter there, I was a team of 1 with a coordinator and my director, hence the crying in the shower. But it was totally worth it. Like I got so lucky, truly.
Right place, right time. Like we used to have this thing in DoorDash, which was if you continue to crush it, we will continue to drown you with responsibility.
Oh, so true. So true. That is like the story of like my whole career journey. And you can see that it's like joining, doing tech recruiting, moving from that to leading that team, taking over operations because it needed help, then taking over revenue, and then slowly leading like all of TA. Like I think the role I really play is almost like a fixer. Like when things aren't going the right way, I'm usually the right person to like bring in to get it back on track.
Yep. Solve problems is the thing. So as I mentioned, I love Flock. I'm a legit fanboy, as you know, because I've sent you candidates of like friends and people that are close to me. I want it in my neighborhood tomorrow, but not everybody shares that same view. And the company has had major detractors, major public detractors. How do you and your team handle those objections? And like, what are the principles internally that guide those decisions?
Definitely. We are a polarizing company. You're either gonna love it, feel super neutral towards it, or disagree with it. And so I find when we're dealing with different candidate types, you kind of have to figure out like where they sit in that spectrum, right? There are some people that do not even want to have a conversation with you. They don't want to talk about it. They're just done. You're never going to be able to hire them. It's really not even worth your time trying to go down and convince this human to join because we are so mission driven. If you don't like it, it's going to be really tough to work here when we're talking about it 24/7. For the people that sit somewhere more like in the neutral section, this is usually where you're having like more of a discussion. And I always think of it more as like reverse psychology. Like I can't make these decisions for you. I can prime you with the questions and the things that you need to think about. But at the end of the day, you as the candidate, you have to be able to like sit across the table from your extended family at a holiday and explain what you do and be ready to accept what your aunt, your uncle, your grandma, your cousin has to say about the product, right? And if you can't defend it, like something in you just doesn't feel innately called to it, we're not going to be the right fit. Like we're not going to try and force you into this box and ask you to come and build something you don't believe in. Because again, you're probably going to leave. Like we're really looking for the candidates who are positive towards it or on the more like positive neutral spectrum where we do like a little like bit of like dissent, like come in and challenge it, right? Like think about how we're building the product and make sure that we are building it in a really great ethical way. But you also have to believe in it.
I can imagine your team gets some pretty nasty emails from people you reach out to.
100%. They're very creative. I will say that.
Okay. Changing topics here. So in my pre-episode stalking, I saw that you penned an article about quality of hire and the quality of hire journey at Flock. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Yeah. We've been on quite a journey when it comes to quality of hire. I actually did a talk on this like a long time ago for Ashby. It was quite fun. But we kind of started our journey, I think, around like 2023. And what really got me into quality of hire in the first place was just like the belief of like, why the hell are we so obsessed with time to fill when it starts producing like bad candidates? Like, is it actually the right metric that we should all be like holding on to at the end of the day? I would argue no. Like, all I really think it does is if you tell a recruiter, hey, you got 30 days to do this. I'm sorry, I'm going to get it filled in 30 days, whether it's the right person or the wrong person, because you've put this like time stamp on me that's saying that if I can't do it, I did a bad job.
Yeah.
So I'm incentivized incorrectly. And so all of it came from like, how do I actually incentivize my team to go out and find the best? How do we shape our company to be more focused on quality than speed? And ultimately, I would say when you start focusing on quality, you actually do become faster. It takes a second. It is that concept of like, you have to slow down on the front end. But when you really understand your profile, you're bringing data back to it, what happens in the actual interview process goes really fast. Like our time to fill actually hasn't changed. It's still sitting, I think we're like a company average right now around like less than 40 days.
Explain that, because that is not what typically happens. Typically when you focus more on quality, speed goes down. What is the thing internally? Like what happened to accelerate or keep you guys at the same pace as before? Like how did you do that?
We are a super action-oriented culture. Like we are trained and we hire people who are oriented to being able to make quick decisions off of like little information. Not saying that that is like a competitive advantage. Most companies have that too. But when you know that you have speed, you have to have speed to market to build these products, speed to market to do these things, you have to get really good. And so when we built out a really strong quality of hire program, and we're constantly bringing data in all the time. So we run our surveys at 90 days, 6 months, and 12 months, which is quite different than like most companies where they're actually only thinking about 30, 60, and 90. So we get like very interesting data where I can actually say at the end of someone's year, how did they do? And we can tweak the profiles way faster, where then we come back. And again, I wouldn't want to work for myself. I'm a crazy boss. So like we weren't going to settle. Like we were going to figure out how do you maintain speed and do this. And it's making sure that you actually have a really strong interview plan built on the front end. You understand the time spacing that you're going to have to go through. And then you really think about, okay, if I only have like 30, 40 days to run this process, from the time I open it, I have to be so aligned. Like I need to get through my applicants really quickly in this time period. I need to hit these screens in this time period. You just have to be super regimented. We also, for a lot of our roles, have to self-source everything.
Of course.
Like we don't get a ton of fitting applicants, which adds to the journey. So where we're building the interview plan and figuring it all out, we're also trying to source the whole pipeline. Then the time starts and we're like off to the race.
Okay. What's in these surveys? Like who do you send them to and what are the questions that comprise the survey?
So we're actually like modifying them for 2026 because I'm crazy and I like to update things. But originally what we were really testing for is basically like when you hit these different points in time, would you enthusiastically rehire someone?
Okay, so this is like a common question, but my always rebuttal to that is like, is a hiring manager really going to admit that they fucked up?
If you don't make it a fear culture,
Okay, so how do you do that?
you can't punish them.
Yeah, you probably have to reward them actually for being honest.
Yeah, you can't punish them. So we bring the data back to like QBRs that we're running with like senior leadership and stuff. And we actually don't look at it as a bad thing. We do measure quality of hire on each hiring manager too. And part of that isn't to say that, hey, XYZ is actually doing a terrible job. All of their people are like rated out of 3, whereas this person's all the way up at like a 5. What's going on here? Sometimes you actually find that this person is just a really critical grader. This person is like a rose-colored glasses person. And so it also gives our team a chance to come back and be like, okay, we have to recalibrate across this group. We actually don't understand what's happening. Our measures of these numbers are completely different. Or on the flip side, you end up realizing, okay, hey, this person is hiring the wrong profile. We need to like lean in and actually give them more coaching and guidance. And now that we have this feedback and understand, okay, where are they missing the mark? We can actually go and like spend time with that person, get them back on track and actually fix the issue versus like, if you treat it more like a fear culture, you don't actually know what the issue is, right? Like they're not going to tell you because they think you're going to fire them.
There is a world though to where some people just aren't meant to be managers and some people are really bad at hiring. And so have there been cases when you've been like, actually, this person should probably never hire another human being again?
We have not blackballed anyone yet. Not yet, but there are definitely, you get those spidey senses when you start looking at the feedback or the data and you're like, something is like wrong here. And so I wouldn't say quality of hire is going to be your end all be all of like, should this person be a manager or not? Hiring is a portion of it, right? We want to make them right. I'm committed to training you. If you want to go on this journey, I will make you better. But it does get interesting if you clearly are having an issue with hiring and then you're going to the HR side of the house. And now you're having an issue with like developing, you're having an issue with like promoting people, moving them forward, career growth, all of that. At that point in time, I would say you have a bad problem with your manager. And you probably do have to have the conversation, right? Of like, do you actually enjoy this? Because some people don't, and they're too scared to say it. And if that's the case, you might be able to take them out and bring them back to an IC role where they're happy and they're doing the work that actually fulfills them. Other times, it's just kind of like it ain't gonna work. Like we gotta part ways. Like you have to be a good manager. Like at the end of the day, your job is to basically hire, develop, and retain.
And to be right. At the end of the day, like you need to be right. So, okay. So how do you think about quality of hire in tandem with company performance reviews? Like, are these things like running in parallel? Or are they stepping on each other's toes? Like, what are you guys doing with the HR team?
They do run in parallel. So we actually do our performance reviews as like quarterly pulses. They're quite interesting. So they hit 4 times a year, but they're very short and fast. So again, theirs is basically like 2 questions, kind of again, hinging on the would you rehire a person? And then we also focus on did this human like scale? And we look at it as, are they scaling slower than the business, at the speed of the business, or faster than the business? And then we basically take those scores and we throw them up into like a 9 box, which is a fascinating way to do it, but it works for us. And our questions and quality of hire kind of reflect the same stuff, but like we don't use quality of hire to influence like promotions. We don't use it to influence like your merit or anything like that. It's basically giving us more of a gauge on you in this role today. Are you effective? Whereas like your performance reviews tend to look more at like, yes, today in this role, are you effective? But also like, what is your long-term trajectory at Flock? Where should we actually go and like invest in you? That is kind of the difference between like the two of them, but they do run in parallel. We just use the data differently.
Yeah. When you're seeing quality of hire in an area spike, right? I'm assuming the first thing you do is making sure that the calibration between this group and another group is kind of like on par, but say it's like spiked for the right reasons. Are you guys then like diving in and figuring out like what's going on with the assessments and like where are these people getting it right and trying to back into how to do that in the rest of the company?
Yeah. Yeah.
How's that going?
I mean, it's like a hard thing to like track. Like some people inherently are really, really good at hiring and they just have that like secret sauce about them. They know how to build the assessment. There's some part of it that I think is always gut, which is like a hard thing to like go and replicate across all of your managers, right? Like I can't teach you gut. You either have that or like you don't. And if you don't, you're going to have a harder time hiring. Like that's a big uphill battle that you're going to have to overcome. But if you do have gut and you have a good interview process, we're going to have a much easier time, right? But we can definitely take, like, if there's a team where everybody's getting like 5s, like for instance, we do a really good job hiring engineer 2s. Like we crush bringing in junior level engineering talent. We're so good at it. Most of them go on to get promoted very quickly, move into the next thing. However, we tend to not necessarily struggle. We actually still do a good job, but when you start getting to the staff level, it's harder for us. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, what are we actually doing really well down here that we can take and replicate to some degree up here, where it does become more complicated. How we do things is different than most companies. Like we don't view principal engineers or staff engineers as being able to just be like strategic in the clouds. They're having to like code every single day, which can be unattractive. And so it does force us to have to grow more talent internally, but we're trying to take all those unique practices of how do we nail it and then bring it up here to also nail it on those people.
So gut is interesting. I prefer the term feel. And I feel like it's in short supply right now in society. You said a couple of years ago on LinkedIn that you were like part of the interview loop as an assessor for interviewing managers. And so managers, when they come in, they're going to be the people that are hiring. How do you think about assessing for gut?
It is kind of like one of those very intangible skills that doesn't always like portray itself. I feel like you can almost find it more in like conviction. Like, do people actually feel strong conviction towards the idea that they're pushing out there? In some sense, you do have to have strong gut, right? To go and like hang yourself on an idea and say, yeah, no, I believe in this full-heartedly. You can't change my mind. That is how I think you can assess for it better. And in a more like tangible way, in a sense, than trying to sit back and use my gut to assess their gut, because who knows how they're actually talking to each other. But I do find people who have high conviction tend to actually have a strong like feeling or gut reaction to stuff.
I like that. What else are you asking in your interview? Like, say I'm interviewing for a job at Flock and I'm looking to be a manager. What are you asking me and how are you getting to like what's going on here with this human?
Honestly, I feel like when I interview managers, I spend a lot more time on like how they performance manage people. I think that's the most difficult thing to do as like a leader, and honestly is going to be the make or break for like how you are as a people manager, right? It's not the easy time. Hiring can be easy. It's fun. It's awesome. You're adding a new person to your team. How exciting. The tough part is when you got the hire wrong and now you actually have to manage them. What do you do? How do you react? How are you bringing kindness to the situation, but also like sternness in some degree? You have to get them back on track. Do you know what your team needs? Like, can you tell if you're managing a person who's like a carrot-oriented individual, or are they a stick individual, right? Because how you performance manage is going to be different for those people. So I'm usually figuring out, how have you handled tricky terminations? Like, how have you gotten through that? Tell me of the story of someone you had to performance manage that you actually got off the PIP and they went on to be successful. that is always a really good indicator, in my opinion, of like a strong people leader.
I mean, is that a real thing, Laura? Like, come on. Like, if you get pipped, how many people are getting pipped and then coming back and then like really, becoming a top performer? That's not like real.
I have like one on my team who is
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I have one person on my team who's like an incredible success story. She was recruiting for an area in the business that I don't think like suited her well. Like it just wasn't her recruiting style. And we have like many facets, right? Like you have your typical go to market, typical engineering, and then we have operations, which for us is vastly different than most companies. And so she spent a lot of time on the go to market side. She struggled over there. She struggled to place quality candidates. She struggled to find like the excitement to do the job. She could crank out the volume. It just wasn't like working. And so we ended up partnering together and like spending a lot of time being like, hey, like, things are off track. It's not going great. Like if this doesn't turn around, it's going to end in a really bad day. Right. And like that meeting, she didn't say anything. Next day, she put a meeting on my calendar and I was like, oh, let's go. Gets in there, literally told me how she was going to go change like the game, get it right. And here's what I was wrong on about her. And I was like, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I was like, this is sick. I was like, why doesn't everyone like show up like this? Like she wants it. And if you want it, I'm so willing to like ride and put in the energy and like pour into your cup, right? And so we ended up moving her to the operations team where she is wildly successful. She crushes those roles better than like anyone else I have. And I'm so proud. Like she's probably one of my best success stories and I don't even know if she knows it.
Wow. It's a great story. I think it's like a pretty rare human on the other side required to do that for sure.
It's hard. I would say she's one of the only one, really.
Yeah.
Most people, I don't know. I mean, when you're faced with a pip, I would say most people end up just rolling over.
Yeah.
Like it is really hard to find that like fire inside yourself, right? To like wake up and be like, holy shit, like I want to do this. I want to be here because you're feeling rejected and it's hard. And you have to overcome that emotion and like snap back into your work and like want it. And that again, that's tough. You're either born with that or like you're not.
It's so interesting because I've always hated pips for the reason of like, typically it's like the legal version of CYA to make sure that we document everything, but we really are just going to fire you regardless. And so I've always said, I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, this is like a performance. This is theater. This is company theater. Like, let it go away. And there's been a couple friends who have had these stories. And so a data scientist once told me, Nolan, anecdote, plural is not data. So I do worry about that, but I think that's a sick story.
It is a cool one. They're like one in a million, but it's just those moments where I'm like, I don't know. I think you can separate like great people leaders from like good ones and
Totally.
how they handle like adversity. It's very easy to manage a team when everything's going well and everybody loves you, but it's very hard to get a team back on track when things are going wrong.
I think that's an exactly right. So I want your feedback. So when I interviewed managers, which I haven't had to do now for like 6 years, which is amazing. But when I do, my talk track was, tell me about the biggest team that you built. How did you build it? And then did you fire anybody? And what happened? I've said this before, but like the number one thing I learned from people through this is that typically they move too slow. Like, and then I was like, what did you learn from that situation? And it's like, well, I wish we would have moved a lot faster. Is that generally like what your talk track is when you're interviewing these managers?
100%. People always move too slow, especially I think when you're at that manager level, right? And you're still learning how to guide and coach people, and you're still wrestling with how to make decisions and when's the right time to make the decision. Usually the pitfall people fall into is like holding on for too long on a lot of different things. It doesn't just have to be performance management. It could be holding off too long on like a business decision you have to make because you're freaking out and you don't have all the data. So instead of acting, you end up sitting back and it causes more harm. It always does.
Yep.
Like, I couldn't tell you one time where like not making a choice was like the right thing. It never is. Like, even if I end up being wrong with my choice, I'm really glad I moved forward with something. I saw the outcome of it. I got more data from the situation and I course corrected quickly. Versus like when you're sitting there in like analysis paralysis, like no more data is coming to you. You're just holding your team back. You're holding yourself back. You're holding the company back. You're not being a good people leader.
You said something earlier about being action oriented, and action reveals the next step. I think oftentimes what people want in their head is like the whole map laid out of how they're going to get there. And it turns out basically after step 2, we have no idea. Like it is entirely a guess at that point in time, but action informs the next step. And so like when you do move on things, you will then get more information, even if you're wrong, because it's better to be wrong than to not make any movements at all.
100%. Even the people you probably admire in your life or the companies you think are the most perfect out there, they have no idea what they're doing. No one does. Also, you can think of every possible thing that could go wrong. You can sit down, you can have all your solutions mapped, but the thing that's going to be happening is the one you didn't plan for. Always. You can't plan for everything. You just have to like take the leap. Again, believe in yourself, trust your gut, trust your feelings that you're making the right choice, and then be ready to go with that next set of data that comes in.
All right. Last one is like, I'm just like fascinated by your rise. And I think about careers as kind of like a game of Mario. And, everyone starts at level 1, but in careers, you can jump levels. Like you don't have to go to 2 and then 3 and then 4 unless you work at Google or Meta or a very large company. If you work at smaller companies that are on high trajectories, you can go from level 1 to 4 and from 4 to 8 and from 8 to 12. And like those things can happen in careers. Tony, who is DoorDash's CEO, used to say, which drove me insane, companies scale exponentially, people scale linearly.
Mm-hmm.
And I would add, like, it drove me crazy because it was like a motivating thing and it definitely worked, right? It's like all of us who have scaled really fast have some sort of trauma and like they know how to like get the best out of us by saying, oh, you can't do it, sort of a thing. Like, oh, really? Like, let's go find out. As you seem a very similar person. The addition I'd make to Tony's sentence is companies grow exponentially, people grow linearly, except for the exceptional people. They figure it out. How have you managed to do that? Like, what is the secret to you doing it?
I wish there was like a secret sauce or like a playbook. Everyone would probably do it then, but not really. It's taxing. I always boil it down to, I think, like 3 things, I would say. Again, it's who you are as a person. I feel like that's a little controversial, but it is. Like, it's just, who are you? Like, do you innately have these skills and this drive to push yourself and go these massive levels, these massive jumps? Like, again, in our performance reviews, we're looking at how are you scaling? You have to be scaling faster than the business to make those leaps. And at some point in time, Flock was growing at 100%. We were growing at 70%. That meant I was reinventing myself 100% every single year or faster. That's insane. A normal person doesn't want to do that. It's giving up vacations. It's giving up your weekend, right? You have to sign away these different things. And if you don't want it, you are never going to get there. So again, who you are as a person, first one, like, are you competitive? Are you going to push yourself? Do you want it? And like, I'm totally like a stick person. Like, you kind of got to beat me down and tell me no. And I'm going to like rise and be like, oh, I can absolutely do it. But also on the person note too, is like, yes, you have to have that work ethic, that drive, that passion for it, but you need to be likable. People don't realize that, but you need to be likable. I am an absolute killer. Like, again, I'm a crazy person, but I am so genuine and I'm super transparent that most people want to root for me.
And dynamic.
Yes. Yeah. They want to root for me because they're like, oh my God, like, she's so likable. I want to see her do more in her career. That is huge. That is what's going to like open those doors for you and create those paths of opportunity, even if you don't realize it's happening. The other one I would say is like hard work, right? Like, that kind of goes into it. Are you going to wake up and actually put in the time that is needed to get you here? Those are those late nights, those bad mornings, the phone calls from like your executives late at night where you have to step out from the dinner, tell your husband or wife, like, so sorry, gotta take this. Are you willing to make those sacrifices, right? And again, some people don't want to, and that's totally okay. And then the last piece is always like a dash of luck. Like, you kind of got to hit the right company at the right time and grow with it as it grows. Like, I got very lucky coming into Flock when I did, but I still did not get handed all the roles that I did. I had to grow with it so that when they were ready for that next level of leadership inside of recruiting, I had already positioned myself as someone who was doing that job. So that when they were like, do we have anyone internal for it? my name came up as one they suggested. And that's the same thing I would do all the time. When we were looking for a VP, we didn't even go external. I got it because I'd already been doing that job. And so it's constantly pushing yourself to like, hey, are you operating at that next level? Even when you don't have the title, even when you don't have the pay, are you willing to do it? That's when companies are actually going to be willing to promote you.
Laura, I'm telling you, you are like, I think you're one of the best in the game right now. And this is your first podcast. So I'm going to make you promise that you're going to have to come back later this year and tell us what you guys have been working on so we can go deeper into the actual operations of the thing. But I can't thank you enough for taking the time. You're the best.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.